Hi, my name is Brett Richards. I'm the Chief Executive of Goldshore Resources, a newly formed gold company in Ontario, Canada. We have a historic resource of 4 million ounces that we acquired from Wesdome Gold Mines back in January of 2021. Subsequent to the acquisition, we raised $25 million to support the development of the project, and those transactions were approved by the TSX on May 31st, and we were admitted for trading on June 4th. So a fairly new gold story.
Well, welcome to our sunny shores. You're over here for the one-to-one conference, presumably to find and talk to a whole new raft of investors, despite being a news story. How are you finding that?
It's great. I was just up in Frankfurt at a conference last week, and I think we're starting to see some momentum in the gold space now, both in what we're hearing kind of in the macroeconomic view of gold due to inflation. But I think gold equities are starting to get some traction now as well.
But what is that? Because the economic story's been there since the beginning of the year. People are nervous. Printing of money, never a good thing. Great for gold. But nothing moved this year. What else is driving that thought process of yours?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And because when we started this company around this time last year, we had our initial discussions. I think we all felt the same thing. My board and my advisory board, we all felt gold was going to perform in 2021. It hasn't. It's actually been quite flat. So I think the underlying fundamentals have been there, but the market has been, I'll say, a little nervous to deploy capital. And when we listed in June, the market just dried up in the summertime, and as did the gold space.
It's amazing. Timing's everything in mining. Well, in a lot of cases, timing is everything. But did that make it more difficult to raise the capital, or did you already have that capital pool lined up? I'm looking at the management team and board. It's meaningful. That must have made it easier.
It did. It did. There's a lot of well-known guys who have delivered track records over their careers, and it's why we put it together. We have a lot of horsepower, and that network extends to credibility and extends to our ability to raise capital. So when we raised the first 25 in February of this year, I'm not going to say it was easy, but it wasn't as difficult as it would have been in the summer or in September of this year.
That's for sure. So some of these names, I mean, we've interviewed a few recently. You're not messing around here. It's kind of like the A team have come to play, but who's actually come to play? Who's just a name which kind of gives you access when you need it?
Yeah, I think, on our board, we designed our board as a majority of a group of guys and ladies, but a group of people who are CEOs in their own right. We have 6 CEOs on our board of junior mining or mid-tier mining companies, and they're all very active. I talk to them regularly, and I talk to them about the market. I talk to them about their investor base, what people are looking for, the time. So it is very, very helpful. And we also have 2 very good quality individuals appointed by Wesdome, and Wesdome are obviously a strategic shareholder, and they have 2 board seats.
So we say strategic, basically they've vended in the project, right? So what does that deal look like?
So we acquired the Moss Lake project for $52 million in cash and shares, and $12.5 million of cash initially, and 30 million shares upon approval of the transaction. We still owe 20 million in shares over some milestones over the next 3 or 4 years. Right. So they are, I'm going to say, a strategic investor, but what they are is they're not a company that's going to most likely come back and say, yeah, what great job on the development. We'll take it from here. I think they really see this as a pure investment, because Moss Lake wasn't strategic for them in any way.
Interesting. I'll come back to that. But you've also got to manage that process. So some people go, they'll just come in and take over the project, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Or they're a big strategic shareholder right now, which is a good thing. And then maybe it's an overhang at some point. So you've got to manage that process with them, don't you?
We do. I think from the initial discussions we had with Wesdome, I think they felt that they could have received $50 million of cash from somebody, but they wanted to take a position to get exposure to the gold price run. Everyone thought the gold price was going to run when we did this transaction, and also to the exposure of the project being developed. So if we can turn however many times money for them, for them, that's meaningful. $50 million for a $1.6 billion company is not as meaningful, but they saw this as an investment. And I think driving the impetus to hang around and get exposure to it was the team. It falls back on the group of people who have delivered on projects like this throughout their careers, and there's a very, very solid team put together for this.
So how many? Okay, for you're a shareholder.
Yeah,
you put some money in. You own cold hard cash.
I put a lot of cash in.
Okay, so you're serious about this. I guess some of the other players have put a bit of money in too. You're determined, or you believe that you can get this thing to be a mine. You guys have got a track record, but we've looked at yours. You're reasonably well known here in UK and Europe. What does that mean for the relationship with Wesdome in the sense that what's the expectation of you? What was the agreement with you? Why give it to you? They could have got 50 million cash, like you said.
I think they wanted a vehicle that they could get exposure to the project rather than cash. This gave them that, but I get that. I get that. What I'm trying to get at from you is like, what was the tenor of the conversation with them? Said, look, here's a process that we're going to go through, and they go, yeah, sure. We would like you to do it this way, they said. They've got 2 board seats, not 1, 2 board seats, right? So they've got expectation of the way you do this. Market didn't work for you in 2021. Yeah. Has that set you back in terms of the relationship? No, I don't think it did. I don't, this is always going to be kind of tempered to the general kind of gold equity market. I don't think it set us back. I think what it did, it really underpinned where gold's going and the framework for the gold trading environment. I'm of the view that gold is now at a new kind of plateau. Gold, I feel that gold's going to trade between $1,800 and $2,200 for the foreseeable future. And if you remember back 10, 15, 20 years ago, companies used $1,200 as their assessment for gold projects. Then it was $1,500, and then kind of even fell back to $1,200. I think we're now to the point where companies will do assessments of gold projects at $1,800. And this project, given the size of it, given the scale of it, and given the leverage of these types of projects to the gold price, this is a great opportunity, and they see that.
Now, I remember that. We were financing projects at $1,250 gold, and it was fine, quite boring for a long period of time. When it hit $1,650, we were all delighted. So $1,650, I'm happy. $1,800 is good news. We'll see what happens next year. I think there's a lot of conversation and chat from brokers and other promoters that will be looking to push gold next year. So I think everyone's a little bit excited about what next year holds, but we're not there yet. Let's talk about the asset, okay? You picked up something which you must have known enough about to go and offer $52.5 million for. So what did you know?
So we did extensive due diligence on it, and I think there's been a long history at Moss Lake. And Wesdome kind of bolted on 2 land packages to it in the southwest called Hamlin Lake, and also up in the northeast called Coldstream and Iris Lake. And these are big copper expressions that there was a historic copper gold mine run by Noranda and Xstrata in the 80s and closed in 92 due to the copper price. So our focus is on Moss Lake, but there's a lot of optionality here. And I felt when I looked at this, Moss Lake was horribly under-drilled. It was your typical junior story. They'll drill down 250 or 300 meters, get the results in the market, raise some money, do it again. This was the story. And when we started to look at this from a geological standpoint, we quickly knew that this was going to be much bigger along strike. It's going to be laterally much wider. And at depth, our first few drill holes validated what we thought, is that mineralization continues on, and it does, down 700 meters. So I think we saw this as a size and scale, and these are the types of projects you look for in this type of environment, something that can really move the needle.
Yeah, and I think you've got a lot of names around it. And again, the other game, you talk about games being played and how they ran it before. Nearology, the closeology play, and you name drop anyone who's near you. You've got to feel that there's more to it than that. So apart from the fact, the lack of work that had been done before, what was the data points telling you? What did you say? Well, actually, if we approached it like X, Y, or Z, I think we can get a lot more from this. Because you've announced a 100,000 meter drill program, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But you're going to come at it a specific way. So maybe talk about how you're going to come at it, and that maybe answer the question.
Yeah, so there's been about 100,000, 110,000 meters drilled at Moss Lake. There's been about 50,000 meters drilled on these other 2 kind of copper targets, these high-grade copper targets. And I think, we put together an initial 100,000 meter program to increase the quality of the resource, to verify the 4 million ounces, obviously, but to increase the quality of it up into measured and indicated, and to expand it. And quite frankly, a long strike, a long laterally, but also at depth. And I think that is going to be the impetus to a much larger project.
So how does that work? 100,000 meters, there's a lot of meters, it's expensive stuff. So you got to validate what's gone before. 2013, long time ago. So that involved, how much of that will be twinning, how much of that going to be infill, and how much is going to be new, expansive drilling?
I think it'll break down into quarters. We'll see about 25,000 meters of verification drilling. We'll see about 25,000 meters of infill. We'll see 25,000 meters of step out and step down. And we'll probably save 10 or 15,000 meters for the copper targets, prospects, probably next spring, and plus or minus, we'll get to somewhere around 100,000 meters. We actually have a program beyond that, but I think 100,000 meters gets this to a size that I think we can do another economic study on.
Okay, and that's interesting. So then we've talked, again, I'll come back to the games, because there's a lot of companies out there who play the game. They're not interested in actually mining, okay, properly. So you'll spend that money. You'll have to go out to market and tell a story. You've got a big retail component at the moment, and I know you've got the team that can access the institutional stuff too. So what is the picture you're trying to paint for the market?
So we're trying to do this to a standard that is not a junior mining standard. I've worked for majors. I worked for Kinross and Katanga Mining, and Pete Flindell, who's my VP of exploration on site. We've been together for almost 20 years on the last 8 or 10 projects, and he worked for Newmont. So we understand what the big guys really want in a project. And I guess ultimately what I'm trying to create is a tier 1 project. And you'll hear Mark
What do they want? Tell us what they want. I'm intrigued.
They want 10-year mine life, they want 10 million ounces, they want 500,000 ounce production profile, and they want lower half of the cost curve. That's a tier 1 asset.
So if a company's not telling me that, I know they're not serious.
Right.
Okay.
But these things actually they gear themselves when you get up into those volumes, they actually work much better.
Right. Okay. So so there's the Wesdome component, and there's also Sierra Madre as well, which is why Doug Ramshaw was involved in this.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It was just a shell. Sierra Madre Developments was a shell that we RTO'd into. Hence, what we did the transaction. The transaction was contingent on the RTO getting approved by the TSX. That happened end of May, and away we go for trading. But yeah, Doug came in through the Sierra Madre route. Others came into the project just through our known associations. Galen McNamara, who's their chairman, he led and drove a lot of the initial conversations with Wesdome, along with others on our advisory board.
Right. Okay. So you feel you've got the right project. You'll know. So when is this drilling finished?
It'll finish around this time next year.
Okay, so you've got 12 months of drilling ahead of you. You're financed for all of that. You know what the picture you've got to start building. Now, clearly, you're not going to be able to deliver 10 million ounces, etc. At that point, but you'll have done enough. And what will enough be at that point to go and raise capital?
So the whole project, the whole program that we have on the 100,000 meters is to get us to either that 10 million ounce mark or show a path to that 10 million ounce mark.
Right, but it's more likely the latter, right?
It's more likely the latter, but we need to be able to demonstrate that this is, much bigger than even where we get to in a year's time, and that whether we get close to a tier 1 asset or we can demonstrate it, I think that's going to be the end goal at the end of the day.
So,
but going on beyond that, I think we need to take a look in the mirror at that stage and say, do we want to be transactional? Or do we want to continue on with the development? And the market will tell us that, the gold price will tell us that, the share price will tell us that.
Always.
Yeah.
Look, appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks, Matt.
It's nice to be introduced to the story and meet you. We'll stay in touch, see how you get on, and come and let us know.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Take care. Thanks.